When you're looking for a solicitor to deal with your case, you don't just look for any solicitor, you look for the right solicitor. An expert who knows what he's doing can deal with your case the right way, achieving the best results. Hobaski Solicitors has more than 100 years of specialist experience serving the local community in immigration law, property law, human rights legislation, civil and criminal litigation, family law, employment law, Sharia law, business law, maritime and commercial law, providing professional legal services globally in Africa, Asia and Europe. Be assured we'll be able to deal with your case the absolute right way with results. So, contact us today by phone on 020-7739-7549 or go online at www.legalpal.com. When you're looking for a solicitor to deal with your case, you don't just look for any solicitor, you look for the right solicitor. An expert who knows what he's doing can deal with your case the right way, achieving the best results. Hobaski Solicitors has more than 100 years of specialist experience serving the local community in immigration law, property law, human rights legislation, civil and criminal litigation, family law, employment law, Sharia law, business law, maritime and commercial law, providing professional legal services globally in Africa, Asia and Europe. Be assured we'll be able to deal with your case the absolute right way with results. So, contact us today by phone on 020-7739-7549 or go online at www.legalpal.com. When you're looking for a solicitor to deal with your case, you don't just look for any solicitor, you look for the right solicitor. An expert who knows what he's doing can deal with your case the right way, achieving the best results. Hobaski Solicitors has more than 100 years of specialist experience serving the local community in immigration law, property law, human rights legislation, civil and criminal litigation, family law, employment law, Sharia law, business law, maritime and commercial law, providing professional legal services globally in Africa, Asia and Europe. Be assured we'll be able to deal with your case the absolute right way with results. So, contact us today by phone on 020-7739-7549 or go online at www.legalpal.com. When you're looking for a solicitor to deal with your case, you don't just look for any solicitor, you look for the right solicitor. An expert who knows what he's doing can deal with your case the right way, achieving the best results. Hobaski Solicitors has more than 100 years of specialist experience serving the local community in immigration law, property law, human rights legislation, civil and criminal litigation, family law, employment law, Sharia law, business law, maritime and commercial law, providing professional legal services globally in Africa, Asia and Europe. Be assured we'll be able to deal with your case the absolute right way with results. So, contact us today by phone on 020-7739-7549 or go online at www.legalpal.com. When you're looking for a solicitor to deal with your case, you don't just look for any solicitor, you look for the right solicitor. An expert who knows what he's doing can deal with your case the right way, achieving the best results. Hobaski Solicitors has more than 100 years of specialist experience serving the local community in immigration law, property law, human rights legislation, civil and criminal litigation, family law, employment law, Sharia law, business law, maritime and commercial law, providing professional legal services globally in Africa, Asia and Europe. Be assured we'll be able to deal with your case the absolute right way with results. So, contact us today by phone on 020-7739-7549 or go online at www.legalpal.com. When you're looking for a solicitor to deal with your case, you don't just look for any solicitor, you look for the right solicitor. An expert who knows what he's doing can deal with your case the right way, achieving the best results. Hobaski Solicitors has more than 100 years of specialist experience serving the local community in immigration law, property law, human rights legislation, civil and criminal litigation, family law, employment law, Sharia law, business law, maritime and commercial law, providing professional legal services globally in Africa, Asia and Europe. Be assured we'll be able to deal with your case the absolute right way with results. So, contact us today by phone on 020 7739 7549 or go online at www.legalpal.com.
A very good evening to you, and thanks for joining us tonight on a new edition, a new episode. We've been away for 2 weeks of Truth and Justice with Dr. Jennifer Obaseke. I am your host, Esther Olufumi. Sorry we couldn't come your way for the past 2 weeks. We were in Africa serving humanity. Good to have you back on Truth and Justice, Dr. Jennifer Obaseke.
My pleasure to be here, and what a lovely trip we had.
Oh, it was fantastic. Beautiful all the way. Good to have you back. Thanks to our fans for staying with us. I know someone called me actually last week. They thought they were live. The guy thought we were live on.
Okay, when they did the repeat.
Sorry, it was a repeat, live. And the guy actually called asking questions, thinking we were live.
But you can call in live today, which is a good thing.
Oh yeah, that's true.
So we have a very special guest with us today, because while we were in Nigeria, we had what was called election fever. We started to see the beginning of the talk, the hustle, the bustle about politics, and I think you've seen a lot of activity even here in the newspapers.
Yeah.
So because I'm not so, let me say, expert about Nigerian politics or politicians,
not a politician,
we decided to bring you a very special guest this evening. And our special guest this evening is none other than Priscilla Winkle.
Oh, Priscilla Winkle. I was biting my tongue trying to pronounce it.
Journalist, broadcaster,
just
years of experience. And yes, today you can call in. Why have we done a show about politics? Because it's important for you to know your obligations when it comes down to political activity.
Absolutely.
Things are not going to change because change starts with you. And it means that you need to make informed decisions. And in order for you to have a well-rounded, informed decision, we might as well bring somebody who knows all the information to talk to you.
Interesting.
And then we can try to pick her brain and also get her back out there to let the politicians know how you feel. Mm-hmm. Very important for them to know what those in the diaspora feel about their leadership, what they can do to make things better, how they are perceived by us here. And those of you who are watching from Nigeria, yes, don't feel disenfranchised. You actually really do need to exercise your right to vote.
Interesting, bright opening from one and only Dr. Jennifer Obaseke. Now, let's go to our guest. Who is Priscilla? I don't want to pronounce.
Some of you may not know her. So, first of all, please let us have the correct pronunciation of your name and tell us about yourself.
Priscilla Winkle.
Winkle.
Yes.
Okay, Winkle.
I am Nigerian. I am from River State, and thus the name Winkle.
Winkle.
Yes. And I have been discussing UK, Nigerian, African politics since 2010.
Wow.
Consistently.
What passion
quite
for?
Literally
Why the
every
passion
day of the
for?
week.
Why the passion for politics?
Why the passion? I didn't set out sort of having the passion for it. I've always discussed current affairs. I've always enjoyed watching current affairs and just being up to date with what's going on, in the world around us, really. But this particular one, it's more like a call more than anything.
It's like a calling.
Interesting.
Yes. And what would you say have been your biggest challenges to date?
I think my biggest challenges was when I actually first started, because I felt so green, and so I remember you know, having this argument, as it were, that look, I don't really know much about this area, and look, you've got to go into it. And I remember being so petrified. I started doing it on radio, and it was okay because, you know, on radio
They
nobody
can't see.
No,
They can't see the shaking
and
really nerves.
yes, and my favorite words were that, you know, at least I get to hide, which is and then when the TV came along, I was like, no,
I don't want to do this.
I can't do this. I was petrified that I had to do it on TV, but I have since loved it.
Wow,
It's been a journey. I've learned so much in the process. I've been mentored very well by one who has a doctorate in political science, and you know, especially in the African region as well. So it's been a very, very interesting journey, and in the process I've gotten to interview, meet and speak to politicians on both sides. Not just Nigerian politicians, UK politicians, but African politicians as well, right across South Africa, Zambia, Kenya, Guinea, all of those countries. So it's been great.
Interesting.
What would you say right now, or who would you say your top 3 people that you've interviewed?
Oh my God! I think my top 3 people had to be David Cameron as Prime Minister. That was fantastic. I struggled
Tell me about
to
it.
interview. So I ran away from that one, Buhari, in 2011. This was at the beginning of my interview stages, and I think I spoke. One of my most interesting one was he ran for presidency last year in Sierra Leone. His name is Dr. Kanda Yomkela. At the time, he was working at the UN as the head of UNIDO, United Nations Industrial Organization. So he was one of my favorite interviews, but I think those are my top 3. Obasanjo. I've interviewed him like 3 times.
That's good.
Yeah.
Now, there's something I just wanted to ask you, because I know you interviewed the wealthiest woman in the world.
Yes, I did.
Now, she's at one stage we thought the Angolan former Prime Minister of Angola's daughter was going to be the richest, but I understand they rescinded a lot of her contracts. Recently.
They've rescinded that over this few months actually.
So she's no longer the richest woman. The Nigerian lady
Yes.
is still the richest lady in the world.
She's still the richest woman in the world at the moment, and obviously hers come from oil.
Yes.
The Angolan did too, and she had a lot of contracts to support
A lot
that.
of contracts from the government that her dad used to run. So a lot of them were rescinded.
That her father
Politics. So what's your idea of politics? Your proper idea of politics. What do you think when we talk politics? What do you think it should be?
What should
as
the
to
definition
what it is today? What's your idea of politics?
I think the ideal political situation is one where we're all involved. Because democracy is about everybody's voice, everybody's involvement, everybody's participation. And the whole idea of democracy is that you should be heard. And where we fail to be involved, then obviously we don't have the balance of democracy as we should. So my ideal political situation is where everybody is involved, everybody's playing their role, because I think it's more interesting then.
Well, that's not the situation in most of...
Well, it depends. Democracy as we know it, do you feel that in many countries there's not the true definition of democracy? Government by the people, of the people, and for the people.
Well, you know, what I think is that when it comes to governments, there will always be areas, there will always be grey areas. There will always be areas where we can't reach. But I think that in order for governments to operate, function and deliver, we have to be a part of that. And where we fail to hold them accountable, for instance, or raise a flag where they're going wrong, or ensuring that we are, you know, taking note of what they're doing and asking the right questions, then, you know, the grey areas extends to becoming a complete cutout.
Or a prolific problem. Quite frankly, we've seen situation in is it Myanmar, where the journalists were arrested and actually sentenced today for 7 years, and we can see that in such regimes the issue of freedom of press and freedom of free speech in itself can be strangled in what is considered on paper to be a democracy. And we one of the things when I think about the interview done with this lady, and I'm trying to remember her name as I keep saying this lady. No, not Ansuji, the most wealthy woman in Nigeria.
Oh God, I'm remembering the other lady. Why did this Awushika's name keep coming to me?
It will come back to us.
Yes.
But the issue I'm talking about is women in leadership and women in politics. Do you feel that within the situation we have in Nigeria, we've got elections coming up in February to March.
Yeah.
Do we have enough female people, female leaders, able to represent them, or that have put themselves forward as candidates for leadership in Nigeria?
I think we're not going to see. Let me start that again. It is good that we're beginning to see the women participation in politics in Nigeria, but it's not sufficient. And I think the reason why it's insufficient, or as it were, and this is across the board. You see it in every country. To the point that we're talking about 35% affirmative. The only country that actually has exceeded that is Rwanda. And they did that by default because they had more women than they had men. So they had no option. But they've done it very well nonetheless. And they are now training and informing the whole world of just how important it is to have women in parliament and the effects and the impact of having women in those positions. Now, with the Nigerian woman, I think that we must also understand the level of oppression.
The barriers women have.
And the barriers are there because we are yet to recognize, still very much a man's world, we're yet to recognize that the woman can be an equal. She will not be an equal in every way, but let us acknowledge and recognize that she's capable.
Exactly.
And that she can actually, get the job done. And I think that is slowly happening in Nigeria. We're not quite there yet. And the other thing we also have to equally realize is that politics is not a game for poor people.
We can see, I saw that to actually put yourself forward as a candidate, is it 50? They're asking between 53 and 58 million, and they haven't decided on a figure as yet?
55 million for the APC.
In the beginning. 55 million.
That's to pick up a form for your presidential aspiration.
Seriously.
Yes.
Seriously. But, you see, let's not make it seem as though it's only a problem in Nigeria.
Yes.
Let me just ask all of us, because I think the whole world gets involved when the US are having their elections. They raise trillions
for that's
billions
true. We can see that Russia
dollars.
Also supported those trillions, according to the recent inquiries that have been going on in America.
And let me explain how that money is used.
Campaign money, yes.
Yes, let me explain how that money is used. So if you're listening and there is a candidate that you like, it's important that we go further than just sort of saying something. We need to get involved with our money also. You see, a country like Nigeria is 36 states.
Yes.
And we have 774 local government areas. We have 8,853 or so polling booths that we're going to have for this election. Now, just imagine you have 36 states. You've got to have people in 36 of those states if you're running for presidency.
Wow.
And so having those people there, your foot soldiers, they've got to get out and do the work. You've got to print posters. You've got to do media. You've got to print T-shirts and caps and pens and what have you. All of those things need to be paid for. So when we hear the amounts and we sort of, go,
Or scream.
Yeah. It's not a joke, but so each of these people, you've got to have vehicles that are going to get people around. You've got to buy fuel for those vehicles. You've got to pay people that are going to be working. Because some of these people are going to be employed full-time for the duration of that campaign. There are those that will volunteer, but even in their voluntary status, you still have to buy them a drink, for instance. So give them something. So all of these things cost money. So it's not unique to Nigeria that elections are expensive. Naturally, obviously, here in the UK, we are so lucky
because there's very serious rules about
it's
campaigning.
so well regulated.
Very well regulated.
And you have to literally give an account every month on a specific date of how much you've spent, what you've spent it on, and if you haven't spent it on what you should have spent it on, there is trouble. So you don't want to pay a fine, nor do you want people to end up in prison. So it's regulated and done in such a manner that the cost is kept, relatively low. And also, the way money is raised for election is also regulated. So people can give money to parties and so on, but you're not supposed to really give money to individuals. And so it makes it a little bit bearable here.
Yeah.
It means that most of us can sort of participate. Whereas in a country like Nigeria, you really have to be ready for it. Thus, we have the whole Godfather syndrome situation.
Wow. And would that not be the reason why some of them will go any length to recover
those costs?
Well,
But then again, you have the issue of control. If somebody has pumped in
so much money,
million naira into your campaign, when you're in office and they ask you for favors, are you obligated to give favors?
For them, it's an investment.
For the donors, or
Yes.
for whom?
It's an investment. I mean, how can somebody give you millions of their naira for nothing?
So where's the returns coming from?
Well, how they're going to get
that's
this
the
by
contract
favor,
that
you see.
sign.
So when I give you
Contract and
20
stuff.
or 100 million, and then I say, that thing I need signing off, can you sign it off?
But then the difference is in this country, for instance, the businessman will give all of these monies to the
And then
political
start
parties.
lobbying for things.
And then they begin their lobbying, and you understand there is an unspoken understanding that you are going to pay for this when you get into office. You're going to make laws that will favor our kind.
When I invite you to a lobbying dinner, you're going to show up.
That's
and
right.
You're going to smile.
And we're going to pay less taxes, and you're not going to say much about that, and you're just going to make a law to make that happen.
Can you imagine?
Well, that's the situation, isn't it?
So politics.
Will politics ever be clean and plain?
Well, we've got to hope that it will be. So let's take a break at this stage. Remember, you can always call in. Let us have a good conversation this evening. Priscilla's still here with us. We can also talk about your views on ladies in leadership. Ladies in leadership, are we efficient enough? Why are there not many of us? Why are not so many women, despite the proportion of demographic in places like Nigeria? Why are there not that many female candidates? And also, what are our obligations as the electorate? What are your obligations as a citizen of the Federal Republic? Have you got your voter's card? The deadline has passed.
Why
so
must
if you
you
didn't
vote? I mean, why must you actually vote? Is it compulsory you vote?
Why you should carry out
Should
your
I?
civil obligation
Why should
and
I?
vote? So we'll be discussing all of that after the break. Take care. We'll see
Don't
you
touch
shortly.
that.
When you're looking for a solicitor to deal with your case, you don't just look for any solicitor, you look for the right solicitor. An expert who knows what he's doing can deal with your case the right way, achieving the best results. Hobaski Solicitors has more than 100 years of specialist experience serving the local community in immigration law, property law, human rights legislation, civil and criminal litigation, family law, employment law, Sharia law, business law, maritime and commercial law, providing professional legal services globally in Africa, Asia and Europe. Be assured we'll be able to deal with your case the absolute right way with results. So, contact us today by phone on 020-7739-7549 or go online at www.legalpal.com.
Thanks for staying with us. We're still rolling here on Truth and Justice with Dr. Jennifer Obasake and with our lovely guest today, a politician.
No, she's not a politician. She's a broadcaster.
But
she does interview the politicians, and she doesn't let them get away.
She's got politics in her blood. That's it.
She's got passion for politics. That's what we will say. So, Priscilla, now we were talking about barriers to women entering into politics and into leadership in general. And I'm not sure if you're aware of the lady in Rwanda who did run up or try, as I say, to run for president. And unfortunately, she was detained. Not only was she arrested and detained and pictures of her that were
an
posted
image or
between friends,
something.
posted up on social media. But unfortunately, her family was also detained. That's her mother and her sisters arrested. And these arbitrary arrests, simply because she wanted to put herself forward as a presidential candidate, seem very, very harsh. And the funny thing is, Rwanda's been put in the papers positively in the last 5 years over its, let me say, the way it's rebuilt the countries following civil war. You've got business relations with America. In football, you've got business investment, encouragement, red carpet rolled out to you, people who are investing in Rwanda. And actually, the economy is doing fairly well. But behind the scenes, women are treated in this way if they try to stand up for leadership roles. And she was not the first. There was another presidential candidate, a female, who stepped up and was also arrested and, from what I understand, still remains in jail. So when we go into countries where democracy is not so clearly stated, and let me say, rule of law is not equally efficient, is it safe for women to put their head out and try to put themselves forward as leaders?
We can't stop fighting. That's what we need to understand first and foremost. Rwanda would say concerning that woman, apparently there's a requirement that you have to have sufficient signatures of supporters. And they, according to them, she had signatures of some dead people. But it seemed as though every woman that had tried seemed to be disqualified.
One way or another.
Which really is quite contrary to the celebration and the reputation that Rwanda has for, you know, being one that supports women in leadership and especially in parliament as well. So it's something that I think that the Paul Kagame administration needs to look into, because it's not faring well on his government. And of course, this woman, she went through her family, as you said, all of their businesses, and you know, it's been a nightmare for the family. But women cannot stop fighting. We can't say that because we're in an environment where it's not conducive, or that where we're not allowed,
or to be afraid. We should not be afraid. There are many. I presume there's many young black women, hopefully, that are watching this, and even young black men that have partners and wives that aspire to be leaders or are in leadership roles. And the one thing I want them to be is encouraged. If you feel the passion, if you feel the desire to step into these roles, it's so important that you actually follow your passion. It's so important that you do not feel afraid. And quite frankly, most of these things are designed to keep you down. So you don't want these people that are trying to stop the levels of equality to win. So please see this as a let's say a program of encouragement. And I do hope that you actually do push to your actual full potential.
Interesting. Don't be afraid, don't be scared. But in a situation where the political system is do or die, how can we fight our way through? That's the question.
Well, you know,
it's
the
good
thing
to say don't be afraid, don't be scared, but you can actually see it's
we can see things happening in Rwanda.
So how do you fight your way through?
But you have to have that level of encouragement that there are some female ministers in Rwanda. This issue seems to be whenever the president is challenged by a female, he gets quite scared. I think that's because of the number of females in the population that he might feel, actually, these are
some male
strong challenges.
Too,
there are male challenges, but they don't seem to be arbitrarily arrested and put into jail. But let's even give him the benefit of the doubt, since he has outlined that this particular candidate had some, as he says, irregular signatories on her nomination. But also let us look at the situation if you are in a regime. And one of the things about the Myanmar situation is, even though you've got the leader who says that she is in charge, but then you seem to have the military junta, and you also seem to have the religious leaders within that country having a level of control, and she seems not to have a voice. We can even look here at our Theresa May and see that yes, she's the leader, but she seems to be challenged quite openly by members of her cabinet and even people that have resigned. So again, as a woman in leadership, these challenges come in their different forms, but that doesn't mean that you should be put down.
Keep fighting.
Keep on and keep your passion flowing. Do not be put down. Push to your best live to your full
fighting,
potential,
keep
and if it's
fighting.
meant to be, it will be.
Election is round the corner in Nigeria.
Election
year.
fever.
What do you have to say about this? Why should
Yes.
people vote?
Why
is it
should
important
people
for
vote? Especially
to
in
vote?
Nigeria, you know, you've got this not nonchalant attitude in Nigeria that what will be, they will do what they want to do. The Kabbalah, they're in charge. It's going to be a negotiated democracy. We've heard it all. But why, Priscilla? Why should we
vote?
carry out our civil duty and vote?
I think it's important because I think the mistake that a lot of us make is that we seem to think that we can separate politics from our daily lives. We seem to think that we can distance ourselves. If we distance ourselves from politics, then we're fine. What we don't appreciate or understand is that if the politicians decide that, as you and I are we are all in black, our favorite color is black. If the politicians wake up tomorrow, they rise up and they say, you know what, nobody can wear black in this country anymore. Whether we distance ourselves or not, we have to abide by that.
Exactly.
It will affect us.
It will affect you.
So, you see, if we participate, when they are discussing the issue of whether or not we can wear black, we can say, but why would you want to change that?
We didn't vote for that.
We haven't voted for that. Well, that's not as important as our economy. This is the impact or non-impact of that, you know, and we can raise objections if we choose. But where we do not participate, it just flies through, and we're all affected and impacted. So that's why it's important that we get involved and vote, and we stay alert throughout the 4 years of my
yes.
But I think Nigeria is probably in one of the most interesting times that she's had in her democratic history. Absolutely. For the first time in Nigeria, churches are finally understanding that they are part of society, number one, and that, as I've just described, that they are affected by the decisions and choices of the politicians. So now they are beginning to educate members. Get out and get your PVC because that's your strength. So I think that's fantastic. We're seeing that. We're also seeing an unprecedented number of individuals saying that they're standing for presidency.
Yes.
We've always had
lots of independence this
but
year.
it's so I think we're up to, what was the last count? Was it 50?
Wow, and that's quite a number.
It's quite a number of people that have expressed interest in wanting to run. As I'm sure we've all heard, we have over 83 or is it 83 political parties registered. But the problem that I think we have in general is the lack of ideology.
I was going to say to you, we've got all these parties, all these candidates. Is there any distinction between them?
Well, I think first of all, there's no understanding of the need for ideology. And there is no, and in some cases, not really their fault. There's no need for ideology for them. They think they're different. Yes.
I'm here. I'm a different character.
I'm a different. They actually think
what's
different.
your ideology? What's your mandate? What's your
it's very much like what we see with APC and PDP at the moment. They are the classic, same of a party that Nigerians seem to, for some reason. The reasoning always just knocks me for six. I've never gotten it ever since I started witnessing this, is that some seem to think that APC truly have some kind of difference to PDP.
Are you saying? Because I actually had to go on one of my WhatsApp forums and they were talking about politics, and I said, please, somebody tell me what is the difference between the two parties? Between Labour, Tories, Liberal Democrats, I can tell you the difference. But within these Nigerian political parties, there doesn't seem to be much difference. Is it character politics rather than party politics? Can you explain to us?
Power politics.
Power politics.
I think it's more power play than anything else. I can't really say it's character politics because we don't see much. Then again, I suspect it would depend on what kind of character you speak of. But if it's the kind that I'm thinking you're thinking, real definitions of integrity and things like that, then it's
experience.
Not character politics.
And that I feel is a bit lacking as well.
But I tell you what I find very, very disturbing at the moment. Much as there's a lot of raving going on about what's happening, I am disturbed by the fact that Nigerians, young Nigerians especially, are singing this song that you can't win to the new breed that have arrived on the scene and wanting
The
to
new
become
contenders, the
president.
young bloods.
Yes.
If we call
So
them that. Is that right?
they've just sort of dismissed them. You can't win, so goodbye. Buhari's going to win. And it's so disappointing because I just think to myself, well, actually, if you do the maths on the ground, you will find that it'll be very difficult for Mr. President to actually win if he chooses to run.
You know, one of the reasons why I asked you to come on this program is because many people don't really understand that Nigeria's demographic makes this election very interesting. The number of people that are under the age of 35 is quite staggering, but it's whether they've picked up that momentum to get their PVC and whether they've picked up that, let me say, interest to try and read about the individuals that are putting themselves forward, make a distinction, realise that there are options. It's not just an APC, PDP race. That if they really actually looked at the pedigree behind each of the candidates, their experience, I understand that one of the ladies that is intending to run speaks 3 languages, has international experience.
She speaks 5 languages.
And I'm thinking, hold on a minute, do people know about this woman?
Oh yeah, I mean Nigerians are meeting her. She was actually trending over the weekend. Eunice Atuejide is who you're speaking about, and I have to salute her courage. I have to salute her because she didn't just sort of show up. Like you said, she's got various degrees.
Absolutely.
She's a lawyer, qualified, on both sides. She has 5 children. She set up her own political party as well. So that is what I say to people now. Rather than dismiss them, can you just look at what they've done?
Just look.
At the very least.
At the very least.
Just look at, one of the other players is Professor Kingsley Moghalu. He's written a book, for instance, on what he wants to do for Nigeria. So the moment you put the microphone in his face and just mention any area off the cuff, and he will tell you precisely how he intends to bring
to that
change
region, bring positive change to that
to
region.
that particular thing, and because he has. He's
Analysed
a professor.
it.
He's worked in the central bank. He's worked for the UN. He has various levels of experience that he can bring to the fore, and he's written a book
I
on
just
how
wonder
he can do
if
this.
the populace are aware.
I think Nigerians are
they're
just
dismissive.
no, they're just okay with the situation of selling their votes
It's
for a
ridiculous.
bag of rice.
You've got
for
so
a keg of
many
oil.
that are CEOs.
Seriously.
Run companies successfully, employ
They can't be bothered.
individuals.
Give me
They
money,
can't-
take
Nigerians
my
will just
vote.
dismiss them.
That's the system.
You've got those that have worked around the world.
Global
For
experience.
instance, not just, but in positions of authority, serving other governments. And so they have a level of experience, and and they have the global best practice in areas.
So why are people not seeing this?
No, we're not looking at that because they're not doing PDP or APC, which are the classic 2 parties that we know. So
And there's no difference between them. People are
There's
even
no
changing
difference.
sides
We're just
within the
dis-
party. How is that possible, Priscilla? How can somebody wake up today and say, I'm no longer with APC, I'm now with PDP? How is that possible? On a serious note, I've seen it and I've been reading about it and thinking, is there no sanction? Is there no barriers?
There is the Constitution section 68, I believe, or the Constitution 68 G, I think it is, actually says that if you A and B, so it says if you move from one political party to another, that position really should cease to exist.
Okay.
As long as you can, the political, you have to show that the political party has. The only reason why you can maintain it is if the political party has cracks. Has problems. So it's a contradiction. It should be really very strict, where it should just say, if you move over,
if
you
you move
lose that
That's
position.
it. That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
The
It should
caveat is where people are exploiting.
And unfortunately, this is what the Nigerian Constitution does.
It
sort
kind of gives you a
you
get-out
something,
clause.
yeah.
And they give you a way out. Yeah.
And that's why lawyers are always busy in Nigeria.
Very.
And I mean, I've heard stories about judges not being kept so that they can't sign people in or off once ballots have taken place, so that challenges can come in, etc., etc.
Wow.
But we are being positive. We're going to continue on the momentum of why you must exercise your right to vote and why you must take part between this February 2019 in the elections. Again, Priscilla, we've heard, and you've just mentioned it, this idea of people giving up their right to vote for a bag of rice.
Yeah.
Have there been any let me say, counterparts by the Nigerian government? While I was there recently, I did see some programs of actions by the electoral commission there of where they're trying to prevent this from happening. But are you aware of any specific steps that are being taken?
Well, no, I think we just sort of say things into the air, don't we?
Yeah,
the Nigeria just sort of says it. The reason why
no, they don't just say it. They'll have a table,
a committee,
a committee, a panel, and then they'll have lots of cameras, and then they'll say it. But after they've said it, is there any action or programs that you know that are actually in effect?
You know, and these things happen because we are not speaking up enough against it. If we were, we would demand for these laws
results,
to be changed.
accountability.
And we would demand for results and accountability. And we would demand that they practice what they preach.
Yes.
But because we are not, they get away with it. And it's not it's not that regulation is not available. Oh my
There's
goodness.
plenty.
We have regulation.
We can talk.
The problem
Nigeria,
is
we
we're
can
not
write. Plenty
policing.
regulation. Yes.
Nobody is policing
Enforcement.
and enforcing the regulations that are available. So these instruments are there, but they're not being used.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you see that on Truth and Justice TV, we are questioning. We will continue to question, which is the important thing. We will continue to observe. We'll continue to encourage equality in leadership. And we will continue to make sure that you are encouraged to carry out your civic duty. Please, despite all that you're hearing, make sure that you own your vote. Make sure that you do go to that ballot box. But before going, read up on each candidate. It's not a two-horse race. You can change that. If you want to change your reality, you can change that.
I think it's important for Nigerians to understand something. In order for you to win in Nigeria, it's not that easy. We have geopolitical zones, and the states have to give you a number of votes.
Yeah.
And if they don't give you those number of votes, you can't win.
Yeah.
And you need to have, I think it's a minimum of 25%.
In each state.
Yeah, in order to be able to, you know,
To take the state.
for these regions. So for instance, when I hear people say things like, "Oh, Mr. President is going to win," I'm thinking in my head, you know, I hear Obama's voice going, "Do the maths."
Do the math.
and when I just do the little maths that I can do,
Yeah.
which is to say, let's look at our geopolitical regions, for instance. South are renowned for, they will not give him the vote. He's not that popular with them. He's not as popular with the Southeast either. So he's lost 2 regions. Southwest are on the border line.
Yeah,
so
I
they
see,
would
absolutely.
give him the just about 25 that he requires. Middle belt, with all that has been going on at the moment, he's going to be challenged to have those votes. Now, in the north, for instance, let's go northwest, east, or central, whatever you want to call it. Now, Kano, renowned for having given him a lot of votes in the last election. At the moment, Kwankwaso kind of has, if you like, for want of a better description, ownership of Kano. So he's got more followings there. If Kwankwaso is not working in tandem with him this time around, he's not going to be able to encourage his foot soldiers on the ground to vote for him.
I see.
So,
so there's a lot of strategy.
There's a lot. This is what I'm saying.
And
so
he's presuming.
No, well, I think he probably knows this, but perhaps the people around him, because that, you know, I don't know, you must have heard about his solid 12 million votes.
Yeah.
His solid 12 million votes in this current climate doesn't exist.
Okay, so they no
longer
bankers
exist. No, because with all that has been going on in the Middle Belt, who's going to vote for him in Benue?
You know, this is one of the
I
things
don't
that
know.
I saw a post. I did see a post
think-
on Facebook, and it was talking about it being quite a certainty for him. And I said, well, I don't think those in Ben will say it's certain.
Okay.
Neither do I think
What
those
about
in the
those
north.
in Zamfara?
And Zamfara,
Right
I
now,
just don't think
the
that's
governor
the
of
case.
Sokoto State, for instance, has moved over from APC to PDP. So if the governor of the seat of
Seriously, do you actually think it's people's votes that put these people in power?
No, but you see, these guys have foot
they're
soldiers.
rigged elections.
These guys have foot soldiers in these
We have to be
areas.
optimistic.
It's
It's not
not
going
part
to be
of-
rigging.
Oh, come on.
Some people will be
That's it.
cynical and say, yes, it's going to be rigged. But I
Seriously,
believe,
I-
and other people may think that it's going to be arranged
For
democracy.
me, it's
But
not
right
people's
now,
votes that
I
put
feel
our
that
leaders
there's
in
going
power.
to
It's
be.
not, especially in Nigeria.
I feel that there's
from
going
what
to be
I've just
a
told
specific
you,
set.
even if you're going to rig, you can't rig
Or
so
every-
hard
exactly.
and in every part of the
You
country
think so?
so
Every ballot
well.
box.
Do you know what I mean?
It's not possible.
Because I've just told you, these areas, the South, they don't give him the votes. Southeast, forget it. He can't dream in those areas. And Middle Belt, he's just added Middle Belt to his problems. Because they feel that he failed to act when they needed
in
him
crisis.
to. And so, and then
Extreme
if we go
crisis.
to the north, there's a division there in the north. They're not as happy. And you've already seen the crossovers of, you know,
People moving.
people they're moving over. So they're not going to utilize their foot soldiers to work for him as much as they did
So
in
the people he had
2016.
on the foot on the ground at the grassroots level, he won't have them anymore. This
I
is the
don't
point.
think, yes, I don't think those
You
people
see?
are, because now, if these guys remain in PDP, for instance, they are going to work with their foot soldiers, to work with whomever they agree
Yeah,
Who they back.
absolutely.
So,
It's
you know,
true.
how
I
will
agree
Mr.
with you.
President get this
I,
vote?
I don't. It's a very different climate from when he was last putting himself
Absolutely.
forward. But can I ask this very important question? Once you pay the money and you announce that you're running for president, are there no prerequisites to check, number one, your health, your ability, your CV, your experience? Are there no checks in place? Because I'm quite concerned that you know the whoever does get into place is fit and able to run in that high office, because it's so important. We don't want to have a regressive leader. We want to have a progressive leader, one that's fully able, fit, well and able to take the country to the level
lead
that it
the
needs to go.
country.
So are there no checks? Once you've paid the 53
Once you have the
million
money, that's
or
it.
50 whatever million it is, you announce, you put yourself forward. Is there no one that scrutinises your CV, your health or anything like that?
Well, according to the Constitution,
Again?
according to the Constitution, I've forgotten what, I think it's in chapter 3 of the Constitution, or is it chapter 2? You must be of good health. You must be of sound mind. Very important. And you must be fit for office. You've got to go through all those processes to establish your fitness. Again, it's a problem of we are not policing the law. There is no enforcement of the law.
Checks and regulations.
And when we get involved in politics and we begin to ask the questions and demand for these records to be made public if need be, because when you consider that we had the situation with Yaradua, unfortunately he
Again,
passed
he
on,
passed
and then
away.
you know, thank goodness that our current president hasn't passed on, suffered the same fate. We're, you know, glad to see that. But he has spent considerable time in hospital. And,
Very much considerable time.
And continues to, you know, go back and forth with that. You know, it's not fair, I personally don't think, on the country, on him as an individual, his family. Or,
He does look very frail. That's the only thing, the reason I mention it. I know that he looks completely frail, and also, obviously, age is not on his side. Plus, he has spent a lot of time out of the country seeking treatment abroad, which is
Listen,
quite,
the job of
I would say,
a
very
president is
concerning
no
as
joke
well.
in
Not
any
at all.
part of the world.
course.
If you recall, you know, when Obama went into office, he was fresh and young.
Yes.
But he's all
Sprightly.
lovely and grey right now.
Sprightly.
He's silver at
And
the
now he's a
moment.
silver fox.
Very handsome silver fox. But you know what I mean. The pressure is such that it is very demanding
So you need
on
somebody that
your
is fit.
physical health, on
Mental.
your mental health, and your emotional health, because you're making choices and decisions that affect generations to come. And if we take that into consideration, it's a huge responsibility that I don't think we should play with.
I just think whoever
you know, with
is
regards to who we choose.
whoever is in that office should be seen to be in that office, not abroad seeking treatment and secret treatment. And if they are unwell, it should be very openly outlined whether they are fit to run and serve or not, because it is a service. It's not a right to sit there and hold or keep the seat of president to ransom. If you're not fit and well to run, let somebody who's in a better physical, mental position or even experience run it better than you, because it's not your country to hold ransom. So yes, we hope every
well, some
candidate
people
that
don't think
puts
that.
I know, but
Yeah.
let's hope everybody that is putting themselves forward has done that consideration. Let's hope that the gentleman our lovely president, Mr. Buhari, has thought about that also. But let us now go back to our beautiful electorate. Now, I know Esther's very, what would we say, concerned about rigging. We are all equally concerned about rigging and ballot stuffing and things like that. Why is it that our country has not embraced the idea of online digital voting?
Do you know, Jennifer, that is something that recently it just doesn't make sense to me. And let me say this, rigging happens everywhere.
Everywhere.
Some people are more sophisticated than others. We're still having the argument
electoral
over
concerns.
the US.
We're even having the arguments here over Brexit and the
go.
funding and things like that. There'll always be questions around the world.
Issues. So it happens everywhere. But this is where I struggle with Nigeria, because our electoral system is supposed to be digitalized. They're using the card reader situation. And all of that is supposed to be electronically transferred. So once you vote, it's supposed to electronically be transferred and so on. So what I don't understand, and I find it really odd, is that the system is such that it's so, challenging, difficult. Now, we have 36 states, 774 local governments, and you know that everything we do is about our local governments.
Yes.
So you complete your biodata and you will state your local government. You're expected to go back to your local government and vote. But then we forget that we move around a lot.
We're in a global society.
Exactly.
People
So
in the diaspora want to vote.
Forget the
People in the diaspora, even those in Nigeria, those who are in Sokoto can't go all the way to Lagos.
I recall
local government just to
at
vote.
least when I was born, that I lived in the north for 3 or so years, and we have so many like that. We crisscross the country. That's how we are. So just imagine you live and work in Lagos now, and then you're expected to travel to wherever part of the country you come from to vote. And the dangers involved in that. So it makes it really difficult. But if it is so, we've digitalized the system, why can't we have it such that we can now make sure that people can vote? If you're in Lagos, you should be able to press
a button.
Exactly.
on this
Anyway,
It's not just that.
and vote from in your local government without being present.
Can I just say to you,
Exactly.
if a country is as forward-thinking and organised to sort out BVN numbers uniquely, they can sort out electronic
Why can't we vote by
voting. And I think, is it Kenya that does digital voting as well? So if other countries like Kenya can deal with electronic voting, why can't Nigeria? I know people are saying that we haven't stopped rigging with the ordinary paper, that if somebody hacks the system, but people can hack banks, people can hack anything, but this is something that we can obviously do. We can do better.
We can do better is the message tonight from Dr. Jennifer Obaseke. And Priscilla, I'll be saying there should be a movement, a campaign for Let the Young Rule Nigeria.
Oh, there's already a movement. There's a
so
huge
many
movement in
movements.
Nigeria.
Seriously, they should keep speaking.
Not too young to run. There's
Seriously,
a law now for
we need
that.
a change of powers.
A sea change.
Seriously.
A tidal
Nobody's
change.
going to give it to you if you don't go take it.
We have to voice
Wow,
ourselves. Yes.
wow. We need
Voice
a
your
change of
opinion.
power. Go
use
take
your
it.
voice. Use your vote. Use your vote. I said it 3 times and I mean it. Please, please. I know we had a good discussion and no call-ins, but it was still very, very interesting. Next week, we're going to be talking about import and export. And as I said, I've got a very special guest for you who's going to talk to you about how to bring goods to the EU. EU's running out by March, into the UK, and also how to get your brand out there.
Thank you. We'll see.
When you're looking for a solicitor to deal with your case, you don't just look for any solicitor, you look for the right solicitor. An expert who knows what he's doing can deal with your case the right way, achieving the best results. Obaseke Solicitors has more than 100 years of specialist experience serving the local community in immigration law, property law, human rights legislation, civil and criminal litigation, family law, employment law, Sharia law, business law, maritime and commercial law, providing professional legal services globally in Africa, Asia and Europe. Be assured we'll be able to deal with your case the absolute right way with results. So contact us today by phone on 020-7739-7549 or go online at www.legalpal.com.